He kicked her, right there on her own porch, as if she were trash blocking his path, in front of neighbors watering their lawns, sipping lemonade, or hiding behind shutters. A man in a fake HOA uniform kicked a woman in gardening gloves and a sun hat, muttering something about visual obstructions. She hit the concrete with a thud, the breath knocked out of her lungs. What he didn't know was that she wasn't just some quiet woman with a watering can. Her name was Nora Jensen, and 20 years ago, she had dismantled a human trafficking ring in Berlin. Now she lived a modest life in Crestview Oaks, blending in with her hydrangeas, letting people assume she was nothing more than a retired widow with a green thumb. The man, however, was not who he claimed to be either. His name was Kyle Draper, mid-40s, sun-leathered face, and the kind of arrogance that gets louder the smaller a man feels inside. He wore a navy polo with HOA enforcement unit stitched across the chest in crooked letters. The badge was plastic. The belt holster held a flashlight. Not a weapon. The authority? Imaginary. Earlier that day, Nora had been trimming her bushes near the sidewalk. The sun filtered through the trees, and wind chimes sang faintly in the breeze. Everything was calm until Kyle appeared like a storm with a clipboard and a scowl. "We've had complaints," he barked. "About what?" Nora asked, brushing dirt from her gloves. "You're obstructing the walkway. That's a violation." "I'm on my property." Kyle stepped closer. "That doesn't matter when it affects the community's aesthetic. You're creating a hazard." Then came the accusations. The lawn ornaments too tacky. The watering can too close to the curb. The way she knelt too provocative. Apparently, neighbors watched from windows. No one intervened. Nora stood slowly. Her hands trembled. Not from fear, but restraint. "You're not with the HOA," she said evenly. "Lady," he snapped. "I'm the compliance authority here. Show me ID or I'll escalate." From inside, Nora's nephew, Jordan, had been watching. He stepped out with his phone recording. 26. Broad-shouldered. Ex-military turned accountant. He wasn't the type to let things slide. "Back off," he told Kyle. "You her bodyguard?" Kyle sneered. That's when the kick came. Fast. Unexpected. Right to Nora's hip, knocking her sideways. Gasps echoed from nearby porches. A kid across the street started filming. Jordan rushed to help his aunt. But before things could get worse, a black SUV rolled up to the curb. Sleek. Silent. The kind of vehicle that doesn't need sirens to get attention. The passenger door opened, and out stepped a woman in a dark red blazer, heels clicking against the concrete. Her badge caught the sunlight like a slap. "FBI," she said flatly. "Step away from the resident." Kyle blinked. She never said she was FBI. Nora, still sitting on the ground, brushed off her jeans. "I didn't have to," she said, lifting the collar of her shirt slightly. There, tattooed just below her clavicle, were numbers her old case ID, a mark known within certain circles. The agent didn't hesitate. "We've been monitoring fake HOA enforcement scams in the area, and now we have video." She nodded toward the cameras mounted on Nora's porch. Kyle backed up, his face drained. His partner, who had been leaning against their black SUV with Neighborhood Watch Unit 3 magnetic stickers, raised his hands and mumbled, "I told you this was too much." But it wasn't over. Not even close. That night, Nora opened an old drawer. Inside, her badge, still polished, still valid for access to parts of the federal system most people didn't know existed. Alongside it, a folder of documents she'd collected over the past month. Fake citations, fabricated violations, photos of neighbors intimidated or fined for non-existent infractions. She'd been watching, waiting, collecting, not because she needed revenge, but because justice doesn't retire. The next morning, Kyle bragged in his garage to a few buddies. She folded like a wet napkin. "Old ladies don't fight back." One of them, Vince, laughed. "You kicked her, man." "Barely. Just a tap." Kyle grinned. "She acted like I broke a rib." Vince flipped through a binder. HOA complaints. Photos of residents. Notes scribbled in Sharpie. One page had a photo of a child with "noise violator" under it. That's her nephew, Nora said the next day, dropping the folder on the hood of Kyle's fake patrol cart. He turned, stunned. What the? I was quiet because I wanted peace. Not because I couldn't burn it all down. Her voice was calm, lethal. The real agents flanked her. The same ones who'd watched the videos, issued the warrant, and prepared a federal case file. They cuffed Kyle on the spot. Vince tried to slip away but didn't make it past the mailbox. Neighbors filmed the whole thing. By sunset, the footage was trending online. Local news picked it up first, then regional. By midnight, it hit the national feed. Fake HOA cop assaults, retired FBI agent regrets everything. In court, Nora sat in the front row as Kyle's charges were read. Impersonating an officer. Assault. Coercion. Harassment. Unauthorized surveillance. His smirk was long gone. His lawyer tried to negotiate. The federal prosecutor didn't blink. During testimony, Nora never once raised her voice. She simply let the evidence play. Security footage, phone recordings, photos. The courtroom gasped when they saw the kick. Even the judge's jaw tightened. Kyle was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. No bail. Vince flipped for a lighter sentence. The rest of their little crew was dismantled within days. Nora declined interviews. No memoir. No Netflix deal. But she did speak at the local town hall. Just once. I never needed recognition. I just needed to remind a few people that power isn't in titles or uniforms, it's in integrity. And you should never mistake quiet for weak. The HOA disbanded the following month. A new board was elected with real transparency, real accountability. And Nora? She went back to tending her garden. Hydrangeas still bloomed under her careful touch. And sometimes, when new neighbors walked by and asked about the FBI rumors, she'd smile just slightly and say, "Depends. Are you asking as a neighbor or as a suspect?"